Hello, my name is Jazmin Washington,
And I'm Ashley Cao.
and this is our project on League of Legends. Do early leads, win games. So, our motivation for our project, we wanted to look at something meaningful in the competitive League of Legends gameplay. Playoffs bring together the best teams in the world, and every single game decides whether you move on or get eliminated. As gamers, we've all heard the phrase of if you start strong, you win. But we wanted to test whether that idea actually holds up at the professional level. So going in, we expected early game advantages like gold leads, early kills, or objective control to show up as our strong predictors of who wins the playoff games. But we also knew not every early lead matters equally. So our goal was to figure out which early games factors truly do matter. So for our data collection, we used three different sources, each serving a specific purpose. First, we have our Oracle Elixir CSV. This gave us all our player level stats for every playoff game, gold, experience, creep score, damage, and other early game metrics at multiple time checkpoints, like 10 minutes in, 20 minutes in, 15 minutes in, and so on. This became our primary main data set because it captures everything happening inside each game. Second, the LOL Esports API. This source didn't give us gameplay stats, it gave us a structure. So the API tells us which match ID belongs to which series in the game, the winner and the loser, and also the best of format. So the best of three or the best of five, how many rounds happen in the game. And then also the start time of each match. The CSV doesn't know what round a game happened in, so our API gives us that series level context that we're missing. And then lastly, for the HTML scrape from Leaguepedia, this fills the gaps that the API misses. It goes behind it. So our HTML tells us which specific game belonged to which round, for example, game one of round one. And it also gives team names and full scores for each match. So we use the HTML to clean up missing rounds and make sure teams are labeled consistently. With these three, we have the gameplay stats, tournament structure, and a round by round context that matches up as our matches up greatly for our playoff series level. So going on to this slide, we have our process flow diagram. Basically, for the CSV, we standardized the column names, filtered them down to only 2024 spring playoff games, and fixed missing roles, inferred the correct patch from each game's date, and filled missing stats using position-based averages. After that, we removed any team summary rows in the Elixir CSV as we just purely wanted a player level final data frame. And then finally, we go to the HTML and API. Our HTML gave us rounds, game numbers, and full series scores, while our API gave us the match ID, winners, losers, and best of formats. Because every source spelled teams differently, we unified names using a manual mapping plus fuzzy matching. Once applied, all the three data sets could finally be grouped together and matched together. Then we created a unique matchup key using the two team names and merged the HTML and the API into a single series table. This gave us one clean source for the round, winner, loser, score, and the series date. Finally, we attached that series information back into every player game row using the match key, game date, cleaned IDs and names, and dropped the helper columns. The result is a fully clean unified data set we use for all our analysis as we go on to the next slide.
So on this side, we'll be highlighting our visuals. Starting in the top left, this box plot compares XP difference at 10 minutes across the LCK, LCS, and LEC. It helps us see how strong each region is in the early game. Regions with higher medians and tighter ranges tend to have a more consistent laning fundamentals. So this gives us a quick look at which leagues secure early experience leads. In the top right, we have a scatter plot showing the relationship between gold income and champion damage. The trend line shows a clear positive correlation. So teams that generate more gold usually convert that gold into higher damage output. The bottom left visual is a logistic regression model that predicts win probability from the goal difference at 10 minutes. The black curve represents the model's prediction, while the dots show how actual match results. The key takeaway is that even small early game leads drastically increase the chance of winning. This helps quantify just how important early game economy is in pro play. And finally, the bottom right chart compares each region's average early goal difference with their comeback resilience score. This lets us see which regions are strong early, which regions struggle early, and which ones still manage to win despite deficits. Overall, these visuals give us a deeper understanding of how early game performances connects to late game outcomes and how each different regions approach the game strategically. And then on our next slide, we'll be covering our core insights. So our first core insight shows that converting early kills into early objectives is one of the strongest indicators of winning. Teams with high kills and high objectives had the highest win rates overall. But when teams get kills without turning them into objectives, their win rate drops sharply. In short, kills only matter if you convert them. And for our next core insight, our predictive model highlights which stats most increase the probability of winning. Towers destroyed, dragons secured, and goal difference at 15 minutes rank at the top. These are the measurable actions that are most reliably winning teams from losing ones. Third, when we look at the gold efficiency by role, we see that junglers and mid laners tend to get the best value out of their gold. This tells us that investing resources into these roles usually create the strongest return for the team. Finally, comparing leagues shows that teams with a higher gold lead and better win rates when ahead early consistently outperform others. Early control is a major competitive advantage, especially in leagues like LEC and LCK.
Okay, so on to our conclusion. Our project shows that early game performance is a powerful predictor of playoff success. By cleaning and merging these three major data sources, we were able to build a data set that exposes patterns not visible just to any one source alone. The data tells us a simple but important story. In the playoffs, League of Legends games, early advantages matter, and teams that consistently win or dominate in the first 10 minutes almost always position themselves to win the game and the series.
All right. The future of esports will be shaped by how well teams and analysts understand the numbers behind game. By tracking early game patterns, we can predict momentum, identify strengths, and highlight what truly separates winning teams from the rest. Our project is just one example of how smarter analytics can elevate coaching, commentary, and overall competitive experience for players and fans alike. That concludes our presentation. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we're excited to see how data continues to push esports forward.
Thank you.